Welcome back. You're watching Conflict Hotline, and we are dealing with the topic of inner conflicts. Right now we're looking at a conflict that's within Lauren. They're playing the two sides of Lauren about whether to go down and support her friend through a crisis.
Thank you. So I have a sense that there is almost complete resolution between these two aspects of you, Lauren, that there's a way that it seems like you're almost ready to say yes to going. And I have a concern that there may be another piece here that needs to be looked at, which is what would it be like to be there, and how is that going to be? So don't worry about which part you were in before. When you imagine being there with your friend,
mm-hmm.
I remember you said earlier
mm-hmm.
that there is some way that you feel a lot of pain about her pain, and that led me to be a little concerned about how it would be for you to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm just going there in the role of like caring good friend, you know, who's like kind of shutting off my other needs and I'm just there for her, that's one thing. But if now that I've integrated this part about like self-care also, it's kind of overwhelming to imagine holding her pain and my kind of needs for self-care, all of that together, because her pain is so big
mm-hmm.
that it just is like, wow, that's a lot to hold, me and her, both.
What happens to you in response to her pain?
I mean, I feel sad. I feel helpless.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like such a tragic situation that I don't know, I've been crying a lot when I talk to her about it. I just feel heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. So there's a way that it's almost like you're taking on her pain.
Yeah, I really feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like she's over there, I'm over here. It's like, in a way, it feels like it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, and I'm just curious if you have any reaction to this idea of being there with her.
Yeah, I have some of that feeling, for sure. But also I worry about getting a little depressed, because just that whole situation of people, relationships not lasting,
Mm-hmm.
a kind of betrayal in relationships, or whatever you want to call that, and just the kind of
Mm-hmm.
disappointment of who we'd like to be versus who we are, and I worry that I might get a little depressed and
Great.
a little despondent.
Yeah, thank you. So these are two, different aspects of a similar reaction, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about the dilemma of how we respond to somebody that we really care about being in pain. It was very useful for me when I had the insight that it is not possible for me to feel another person's pain. I can only feel my pain. They are the only person that can feel their pain. I can only feel my pain about their pain. It is not the same. It is not her pain.
Mm-hmm.
That was somehow helpful to me, because if it is my pain, then I have a lot more choice about it, so that was one thing that was helpful. And the other is, you mentioned something about helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me that you think you're supposed to do something about her pain,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't surprise me, since you earlier spoke for I should be a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a big part of you part. It's getting a little hairy here, part of part, but
Mm-hmm.
there's some strength to the idea that you are responsible
Mm-hmm.
for another person and you should do something about it.
Mm-hmm. I want to save her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question to me is that the best thing we have to offer a person in pain? Is to try to save them? Because now when I think about it, when I am in pain, what do I want from other people? And usually for me, it's not, I don't want to be saved, especially not saved by advice. That really gets to me. Doesn't it get to you? What is it that you really want when you're in pain?
Companionship, to be heard.
Yeah, just a sense of somebody being with you. Not necessarily anybody fixing your problem for you.
Yeah, just loving presence.
So, and I'm wondering if when you imagine being with her in loving presence rather than feeling her pain, as you say, or all of that, if that eases any of the tension inside of you.
Yes, not entirely, but yes. It's like I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I don't have to fix it. I'm not responsible. Yeah, it takes some of the pressure off.
And there's still some left.
I think I'm just scared about just being in that zone of devastation.
Yeah, that relates a little bit to what this part was talking about. It's like, how is this going to affect me? And then my question, my curiosity is, when you imagine being there and having all that pain that you're witnessing, do you have then access to connecting with yourself and supporting yourself through that?
I'm trying to imagine how that would be, what that would look like.
It's like a little bit like listening to yourself. Like connecting, like what we were doing here with each other is imagining what the needs might be, what goes on underneath the pain, doing the same thing for yourself.
Yeah.
So like, what is it that makes that possibility of depression, of the devastation? It's thinking about what couples are like. So what is it that you want to have in the world that is the underlying longing that creates this depression underneath it all?
That's a good question. I think it's to kind of have a feeling that it'll be okay, that
So
things aren't always perfect, and that just to trust that it'll be okay.
So it's some kind of trust in the unfolding of life is what I'm hearing. So if you can
for
connect,
myself and others,
if you can connect with that when whatever it is that happens there happens, you can kind of like relax into yourself and find more strength. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Does that speak to you?
And I can imagine that if I'm not trying to be Mr. Fix-It, then I can have the spaciousness to take a moment to do what you described.
Yeah. And you can even tell the friend, I know I'm here to be with you and I need a break. Can you imagine
right.
that?
That's an option that I hadn't thought of, like that we could go, right? But it doesn't mean like 24/7, that I'm like by her bedside. But that there can be, breaks.
Well, I was hoping she'd get up. We could go do something. I don't know if she can, but that was what I was hoping, is that she wouldn't, that somehow the companionship would bring her into the present a little.
So, wondering if you are feeling in a place of being ready to make a decision about whether or not to go or how to go or any of that.
I mean, where I'm at right now is I feel open to going with the understanding that like self-care is possible there. That it doesn't feel so black or white or one or the other. But I also feel like there's a way I could express the care maybe if I don't go. I don't feel so attached to having to go.
Yeah, there's something incredible that happens when you really go to the depth of self-connection.
Yeah.
Where it's really possible to go both ways. And that non-attachment is delicious because then it gives you spaciousness to be in dialogue. And how about you?
I think even though I have the willingness to kind of arrange things to make it more possible for me to go, that for me right now, maybe the biggest piece is just to trust that we'll both be okay, whether I go or I don't go, and that there's a way to talk to her about that, so that the relationship will be okay, and that each of us will be okay. And that I'm almost starting to think that expressing that might be more support, or an equal kind of support.
Yeah. So you'd like to find a way to be in conversation with her about, almost like, I'm almost getting a sense of inviting her into making the decision together. Instead of like she's inviting you and you're saying I'm going or I'm not going, to somehow be in dialogue with her about this.
Yeah, the scary thing about that is that I don't know how able to be in dialogue she is right now, just because she's in such a fragile place. So I feel like I would need to be really delicate. And so I have some hesitation about that. But it might be worth a try.
So we're not going to do this whole dialogue around here, but we could possibly just imagine what the opening line would be. And I have a sense that you're kind of prepared to talk to her. So let's ask you to kind of like imagine that you are the friend.
Okay.
You're the very fragile, devastated friend. And what could be your opening line? And I'm not going to ask you to respond, just to give us feedback about whether you're hearing care in that line.
Okay.
That's the only thing. It's the only thing that's important right now, is to be able to convey care.
Care, right? Okay, care and honesty.
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about this weekend, about, you know, whether I'm coming or not, and just talk to you about some feelings I've been having about it. Do you feel some openness to that?
I have total worry that this doesn't convey care. And here is what's concerning me when you say whether or not I'm going.
Yeah.
Doesn't, if I am fragile,
Yeah.
I hear in that I'm not coming.
Right.
Didn't you hear that?
It was too many words. I kind of spaced out.
Okay. So I can tell you that that's what I am hearing in it. And then I have some feelings about it. It's like, oh my God, what feelings do you have?
Right.
And do you have openness to talk about it? No. Just forget it. You're not coming. I get it. Let's not talk about it.
So start with like, I love you.
Meanwhile, I know I could have opened in exactly the same way. I have to say that.
It's part of it is when we have the hesitation. Then we don't know how to convey the care, because we are mired in the hesitation.
Right.
You could start by expressing the care. Just expressing what is the care leading you to do. I remember you said it so beautifully before. You said, I want for you to be supported through this crisis.
Just say that.
Yeah. And I want to talk with you about whether me coming down is the best way to accomplish that. Do you see how different that is?
Yeah. I also see that, like, I'm not there yet. I think, I mean, just to be true to what's happening in me, like, I think I still feel guilty and, like, protective of her. And it doesn't feel natural to go to just express the care, because I'm just worried.
You're worried? What's the worry?
I'm worried that she's not going to be able to handle anything but, yes, I'm coming and I'm totally here for you, honey.
Yeah. So that's a piece to work out inside of you, rather than with her. So that when you approach her with such full heart that your care shines through. Guilt is not care. guilt is actually protection. That in some ways the guilt doesn't allow you to feel the care.
Right.
That's how, yeah, that's how I started out.
Yeah. So let's take one more break, and let's see if we can find a magical way to wrap it up after the break.
Thanks, Miki. We'll come back in a minute after this break.
Say that we're crazy.